Welcome to Lifelong Echoes. I am your narrator. Today, we will discover the extraordinary story of Albert Einstein, a man who changed the way we understand space, time, and the entire universe. Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." This simple statement captures the essence of his genius. He was not just a scientist. He was a dreamer, a rebel, and a man who dared to think differently about everything. This is the story of a curious boy who became the world's most famous scientist, a man who proved that time can slow down and space can bend, a genius who showed us that mass can become energy. His discoveries changed science forever and gave us new ways to understand our place in the cosmos. Our story begins on March 14th, 1879, in the German city of Ulm. A baby boy was born to Hermann Einstein and Pauline Einstein. They named him Albert. Little did they know that this child would grow up to unlock some of the deepest secrets of the universe. Young Albert was different from other children. He was very quiet and slow to speak. His parents worried that something was wrong with him. Other children his age were already talking in full sentences, but Albert remained mostly silent. His family called him der Deprete, the dopey one. But Albert was not slow or dopey. His mind was working in extraordinary ways. While other children played with toys, Albert was fascinated by invisible forces. He wondered why compass needles always pointed north. He was curious about light, magnetism, and electricity. When Albert was 5 years old, his father showed him a pocket compass. This simple gift changed his life forever. Albert stared at the compass for hours, amazed that the needle always pointed in the same direction. He realized there were invisible forces in the world that he could not see but could feel. From that moment, Albert became obsessed with understanding the invisible. He asked endless questions. What makes the compass work? What is light made of? Why do things fall down and not up? His parents and teachers often could not answer his questions. Albert was also a very independent thinker. He did not like to memorize facts or follow rules blindly. He wanted to understand the why behind everything. This made him a difficult student. His teachers thought he was rebellious and disrespectful. One teacher even told Albert's father, "Your son will never amount to anything." This teacher could not have been more wrong. Albert's refusal to accept simple answers was not a weakness. It was his greatest strength. When Albert was 12 years old, he taught himself algebra and geometry. He discovered the beauty of mathematics. Numbers and equations became his playground. He realized that mathematics was the language of the universe. Through math, he could describe the invisible forces that fascinated him. Albert also loved to read philosophy books. He was particularly interested in the ideas of Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher who wrote about space, time, and reality. These philosophical questions would later inspire Einstein's greatest scientific discoveries. In 1895, when Albert was 16, he took the entrance exam for the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. This was one of Europe's best technical schools. Albert was 2 years younger than most applicants, but he was confident in his abilities. Albert failed the entrance exam. He was excellent in mathematics and physics, but he struggled with languages, history, and other subjects. The rejection was devastating, but Albert did not give up. He spent one more year studying, then applied again. In 1896, Albert finally entered the Polytechnic, but even there, he was not a model student. He often skipped classes that bored him. Instead, he spent his time reading the latest scientific papers and conducting his own experiments. Albert's professors were not impressed with his attitude. One professor told him, "You have a good mind, Einstein, but you don't want to learn anything." Albert disagreed. He wanted to learn everything, but only in his own way. During his university years, Albert began to question some of the basic assumptions of physics. Scientists at that time believed that space and time were fixed and unchanging. They thought that light always traveled at the same speed relative to the observer. But Albert had doubts. He imagined himself riding alongside a beam of light. What would he see? This thought experiment led him to question everything he had been taught about space, time, and motion. In 1900, Albert graduated from the Polytechnic, but finding a job proved difficult. His professors did not give him strong recommendations because of his independent attitude. For 2 years, Albert struggled to find work as a physicist. Finally, in 1902, Albert found a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His job was to examine patent applications for new inventions. Many people thought this was a waste of Einstein's talents, but this job turned out to be perfect for his genius. At the patent office, Albert examined inventions related to electromagnetic signals and electrical devices. This work helped him understand the practical applications of physics. More importantly, the job gave him time to think about his own scientific ideas. Albert worked at the patent office during the day, but his evenings and weekends belonged to physics. He conducted thought experiments in his mind. He imagined riding on trains that moved at the speed of light. He wondered what would happen if gravity suddenly disappeared. In 1903, Albert married Mileva Maric, a fellow physics student from the Polytechnic. Mileva was one of the first women to study physics in Switzerland. She was intelligent and shared Albert's passion for science. Together, they discussed physics problems and mathematical equations. By 1905, Albert had developed revolutionary ideas about space, time, light, and energy. That year, he published 4 scientific papers that would change physics forever. Scientists now call 1905 Einstein's miracle year. Albert's first paper explained the photoelectric effect. He proposed that light behaves like particles, not just waves. This idea was so revolutionary that it took years for other scientists to accept it. For this work, Einstein would later win the Nobel Prize. His second paper proved that atoms really exist. At that time, some scientists still doubted whether atoms were real or just theoretical concepts. Einstein showed how tiny particles suspended in water move randomly because they are hit by invisible atoms. But Einstein's third and fourth papers were the most revolutionary. These papers introduced his special theory of relativity. Einstein showed that space and time are not separate, fixed things. Instead, they are woven together into something called space-time. The special theory of relativity revealed amazing truths about our universe. Time moves slower when you travel very fast. Length contracts when objects approach the speed of light. Mass and energy are two forms of the same thing. From this theory came Einstein's most famous equation, E equals mc squared. This equation shows that even a tiny amount of matter contains enormous energy. This discovery would later lead to nuclear power and nuclear weapons. At first, most scientists ignored Einstein's papers. The ideas seemed too strange to be true. How could time slow down? How could space contract? These concepts challenged everything scientists thought they knew about reality. But gradually, other physicists began to understand Einstein's brilliance. Experimental evidence confirmed his predictions. The scientific world realized that a patent clerk in Switzerland had revolutionized human understanding of the universe. Einstein was not satisfied with special relativity. He knew it was incomplete. The theory explained motion at constant speeds, but it did not explain acceleration or gravity. Einstein spent the next 10 years developing an even more revolutionary theory. In 1915, Einstein completed his general theory of relativity. This theory presented a completely new understanding of gravity. Newton had described gravity as a force that pulls objects together. Einstein showed that gravity is actually the bending of space-time itself. Einstein explained gravity with a simple example. Imagine a heavy ball placed on a stretched rubber sheet. The ball creates a depression in the sheet. If you roll a smaller ball nearby, it will curve toward the heavy ball because of the depression. Einstein said that massive objects like stars and planets create similar depressions in space-time. Other objects follow curved paths around these depressions. We experience this curvature as the force of gravity. The general theory made several amazing predictions. It predicted that light bends when passing near massive objects. It predicted that time runs slower in strong gravitational fields. It even predicted the existence of black holes, regions where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape. In 1919, British scientist Arthur Eddington tested Einstein's theory during a solar eclipse. He measured the position of stars whose light passed near the sun. Einstein's theory predicted that the sun's gravity would bend the starlight, making the stars appear in slightly different positions. Eddington's measurements confirmed Einstein's prediction exactly. The results made headlines around the world. "Revolution in science," announced the London Times. "New theory of the universe." Overnight, Einstein became the world's most famous scientist. Newspapers called him a genius. Universities invited him to give lectures. People who had never heard of relativity knew the name Albert Einstein. But fame came with a price. Einstein's Jewish heritage made him a target for growing anti-Semitism in Germany. Nazi politicians attacked his theories as Jewish physics. They threatened his safety and destroyed his work. Einstein was not just a scientist. He was also a passionate humanitarian. He spoke out against war, racism, and injustice. He believed that scientists had a responsibility to make the world better, not just to discover new facts. During World War I, Einstein was one of the few German scientists who opposed the war. While his colleagues supported their government, Einstein called for peace and international cooperation. Einstein also fought against racism. When the famous African-American singer Marian Anderson was refused service at a hotel in Princeton, Einstein invited her to stay at his home. He called racism a disease of white people. In 1921, Einstein won the Nobel Prize in Physics for his explanation of the photoelectric effect. Interestingly, the Nobel Committee did not mention his theories of relativity. At that time, these theories were still considered too controversial. By 1933, the situation in Germany had become dangerous for Einstein. Adolf Hitler had come to power, and the Nazis were persecuting Jewish people. Einstein was visiting the United States when Hitler rose to power. He decided never to return to Germany. Einstein accepted a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. He spent the last 22 years of his life in Princeton, continuing his research and speaking out for human rights. During World War II, Einstein wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt. He warned that Germany might be developing atomic weapons. This letter helped convince the United States to start the Manhattan Project, which led to the development of nuclear bombs. Einstein later regretted his role in encouraging the atomic bomb's development. After the bombs were dropped on Japan, he called his letter to Roosevelt the one great mistake of his life. He spent his remaining years advocating for nuclear disarmament and world peace. In his later years, Einstein worked on what he called the theory of everything. He wanted to find a single equation that would explain all the forces in the universe. He hoped to unify gravity with the electromagnetic force. Einstein spent decades on this quest, but he never succeeded. Many other physicists had moved on to study quantum mechanics, the physics of very small particles. But Einstein was uncomfortable with quantum theory. Einstein famously said, "God does not play dice with the universe." He believed that the universe followed precise, predictable laws. Quantum mechanics suggested that some events happened by chance, which Einstein could not accept. Today, scientists are still working on Einstein's dream of a unified theory. They call it the theory of everything, or quantum gravity. Einstein's vision continues to inspire new generations of physicists. On April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein died peacefully in Princeton. He was 76 years old. Even on his deathbed, he was working on equations, trying to solve the mysteries of the universe. Einstein's brain was removed after his death for scientific study. Researchers wanted to understand what made him so brilliant. But Einstein's real genius was not in his brain structure. It was in his curiosity, his imagination, and his courage to think differently. Einstein's discoveries continue to shape our world today. GPS satellites must account for Einstein's relativity to give accurate positions. Nuclear power plants use his famous equation, E equals mc squared. Scientists use his theories to study black holes and the expansion of the universe. But Einstein's greatest legacy may be his approach to thinking. He showed us that the most important questions often have the simplest answers. He proved that imagination and curiosity are more valuable than memorizing facts. Einstein once said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence." He never lost his sense of wonder about the universe. Every day brought new mysteries to explore and new questions to ask. Einstein also taught us about the responsibility that comes with knowledge. He believed that scientists should use their discoveries to help humanity, not to harm it. He showed that genius without conscience is dangerous. Albert Einstein transformed our understanding of space, time, matter, and energy. He showed us that the universe is far stranger and more beautiful than anyone had imagined. His theories revealed that time can slow down, space can bend, and mass can become pure energy. But perhaps Einstein's most important discovery was about human potential. He proved that one person, armed with curiosity and imagination, can change the way we see everything. He showed us that the biggest breakthroughs come from asking the simplest questions. Einstein's life reminds us that genius is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is about being curious enough to ask questions that no one else thinks to ask. It is about having the courage to imagine impossible things and then finding ways to make them possible. Today, when we look at the stars or use our smartphones, we are experiencing the world that Einstein revealed to us. His theories help us navigate by satellite and understand the birth of the universe. His equations guide spacecraft to distant planets and help doctors see inside the human body. But Einstein's greatest gift to humanity was not his equations. It was his example. He showed us that we should never stop questioning, never stop wondering, and never stop imagining. He proved that the universe is far more amazing than we can possibly imagine. Einstein once said, "Try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of value." His life embodied this philosophy. He used his genius not for personal glory, but to expand human knowledge and promote human dignity. This concludes our journey through the life of Albert Einstein. From a curious child with a compass to the greatest scientist of the modern age, Einstein's story teaches us that wonder and imagination can unlock the secrets of the universe. Thank you for joining us on Lifelong Echoes. Remember Einstein's words, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." What will your imagination discover? What questions will you ask that no one has thought to ask before? Until next time, keep questioning, keep wondering, and keep believing in the power of human curiosity to change the world.